The Shadows of Chernobyl, unveiling the monsters of the exclusion zone. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're embarking on a journey into one of the most enigmatic and haunting places on Earth, Chernobyl. You've probably heard about the catastrophic nuclear disaster that happened there in 1986, but what if I told you that the story doesn't end with the abandoned buildings and overgrown streets? There's a shroud of mystery enveloping the exclusion zone, whispers of creatures lurking in the shadows, and tales that send chills down the spine. What really goes on in the depths of this forsaken land? Are the stories of Chernobyl monsters just urban legends, or is there something more sinister at play? Grab your snacks, dim the lights, or maybe turn them on, and join me as we delve into the eerie world of Chernobyl's darkest secrets. Let's get started. April 26, 1986. It was a quiet night in Pripyat, a city in northern Ukraine, built to house the workers of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Families were asleep, children tucked in bed, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. At 1:23 a.m., during a routine safety test, Reactor 4 at the power plant exploded. The explosion was catastrophic, sending a plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The force was so immense that it blew the 2,000-ton reactor lid into the air. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. Fires broke out, and a deadly radiation cloud began to spread. First responders rushed to the scene, heroes who faced an invisible enemy. Many suffered severe radiation sickness, with harrowing accounts of their experiences. One firefighter described a metallic taste in his mouth and a feeling of pins and needles on his face. Little did they know the radiation they were exposed to was millions of times higher than normal levels. As dawn broke, life in Pripyat continued as usual. Children played outside, people went to work, all while the invisible menace of radiation seeped into their lives. It wasn't until much later that day that evacuations began, marking the start of a disaster that would echo through history. In the wake of the disaster, authorities established a 30-kilometer exclusion zone around the reactor. The residents of Pripyat were told they had to evacuate, but assured it was temporary, just 3 days away from home. Imagine leaving everything behind, thinking you'd be back soon, but never returning. Over 49,000 people were evacuated in just a few hours. Buses filled the streets as announcements echoed through the city. Personal belongings, pets, and cherished memories were left behind. The city became a ghost town overnight. As years passed, nature began to reclaim Pripyat. Trees sprouted through sidewalks, buildings crumbled, and wildlife roamed freely. But the silence wasn't just the absence of people. There was an eerie feeling that the zone held secrets. Early visitors and scientists reported strange phenomena, odd sounds, shadows that moved on their own, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. With the passing of time, stories and legends about the exclusion zone began to surface. Illegal visitors, often called stalkers, ventured into the zone seeking adventure, artifacts, or simply the thrill of defying the forbidden. Some returned with unsettling tales. There were accounts of animals displaying unnatural behaviors, like wolves unafraid of humans, or birds with unusual markings. A few claimed to have seen creatures that defied explanation. One story tells of a group who encountered a giant rodent-like animal with glowing eyes that vanished into the mist. There were also whispers of mysterious disappearances. A couple of adventurers went in but never came out. Their gear was found near peculiar markings and footprints that didn't match any known species. Locals from surrounding areas spoke of lights flickering in abandoned buildings and shadows that seemed to move with intent. Researchers working in the zone had their own strange experiences. Equipment would malfunction without reason, radiation levels spiked unexpectedly, and some reported hearing distant voices when no one else was around. Were these just coincidences, the effects of radiation on the mind, or was there something more to these tales? Enter our group of modern-day explorers. Lisa, a biologist fascinated by how nature adapts. Mark, a photographer looking for the perfect shot. And Yuri, a local who knows the land better than anyone. Drawn by the allure of the unknown, they decide to venture into the exclusion zone despite the risks. Their reasons vary. Lisa hopes to study the unique flora and fauna that have developed in the absence of humans. Mark wants to capture images that the world has never seen. Yuri seeks closure about his family's history tied to the disaster. Together, they prepare meticulously, gathering supplies, planning routes, and ensuring they have the necessary protective gear. Sneaking past security checkpoints under the cover of night, they cross into the zone. The atmosphere changes immediately. The air feels thicker, and an unnatural quiet surrounds them. The Geiger counter's steady clicking is a constant reminder of the invisible dangers. Their initial exploration is awe-inspiring yet unsettling. Buildings frozen in time, children's toys scattered in playgrounds, and nature overtaking man-made structures. It's a stark reminder of what was lost. As they delve deeper, they can't shake the feeling that they're not alone. Lisa notices plants with strange mutations, flowers glowing faintly, or trees twisted in bizarre shapes. Mark captures photos with inexplicable anomalies, blurs and shadows that weren't there before. Yuri feels a persistent chill, despite the warm weather. They hear distant sounds, footsteps echoing in empty halls, whispering carried by the wind, and once a distant howl that raises the hairs on the back of their necks. Are these just the tricks of an overactive imagination, or is something watching them? Determined to uncover the truth, they press on. Curiosity drives them forward, but so does a growing sense of unease. Little do they know, their journey is about to take a terrifying turn. Things take a dark turn when the group decides to explore the old hospital, a place rumored to be the most radioactive building in Pripyat. Navigating through dimly lit corridors, they come across rooms filled with discarded equipment, gas masks strewn across the floor, and walls marked with eerie graffiti. Suddenly, Mark notices movement at the end of the hallway. "Did you see that?" he whispers. The others strain their eyes but see nothing. They continue cautiously, but the feeling of being watched intensifies. Entering a large room, they hear a faint shuffling sound. Lisa shines her flashlight towards the source, and their blood runs cold. Standing there is a figure hunched over, with elongated limbs and skin that appears almost translucent. Its eyes reflect the light with an unnatural glow. For a moment, everyone's frozen. The creature lets out a guttural noise, somewhere between a growl and a hiss. Without warning, it darts away with incredible speed. "What was that?" Yuri exclaims, his voice trembling. They decide to follow. Perhaps not the wisest choice, but driven by equal parts fear and curiosity. Deeper into the hospital's bowels they go, encountering more signs that they're not alone. Scratches on the walls, footprints unlike any animal they've seen, and a cacophony of distant sounds that seem to be getting closer. In a narrow corridor, they come face to face with multiple creatures. These beings are similar to the first but vary in size and appearance. Some crawl along the ceiling, others peer from doorways. The realization hits. They're surrounded. Panic sets in. The group retreats, trying to find an exit. The creatures don't chase directly, but seem to herd them, guiding them deeper into the maze-like structure. It's as if they're intelligent, coordinating their movements to trap the intruders. In their frantic escape, Mark gets separated. Lisa and Yuri hear his shout echoing from somewhere below. Torn between finding him and saving themselves, they choose to search for their friend. Their path leads them to an underground chamber that wasn't on their map. There they find Mark, unharmed but shaken, standing before a wall covered in cryptic symbols and diagrams. "You need to see this," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. The chamber appears to be a makeshift laboratory. Jars containing odd specimens line the shelves, and documents lie scattered across a desk. The creatures keep their distance, almost as if guarding this place. Lisa pieces together the horrifying possibility. These creatures might be the result of secret experiments conducted after the disaster. Perhaps attempts to study radiation's effects went further than anyone knew, crossing ethical boundaries and creating something entirely new. The group's fear is now overshadowed by dread. If these beings are intelligent and have been hiding all this time, what else don't we know? And more pressingly, will they allow the group to leave with this knowledge? Realizing they've stumbled upon something monumental, the trio begins examining the documents. They reveal notes on experiments aimed at accelerated evolution, harnessing radiation to induce rapid genetic changes. The goal? To create organisms capable of surviving extreme conditions, perhaps even for military applications. There are photographs of test subjects, humans and animals, exposed to various levels of radiation. The results are disturbing. Some show grotesque mutations, others hint at enhanced abilities like heightened senses or strength. Eerie finds a log entry from just days before the reactor meltdown, suggesting that the disaster may have been linked to these experiments. The lines between accident and intentional cover-up blur ominously. The weight of this discovery is heavy. Lisa grapples with the ethical violations and suffering imposed on unwitting subjects. Mark documents everything, feeling a responsibility to expose the truth. Eerie is conflicted, the legacy of his homeland tarnished by these revelations. But time is not on their side. The creatures grow restless, their movements more erratic. It's as if they sense the group's intrusion into their sanctuary. The possibility that the monsters are the very test subjects from the experiments or their descendants becomes increasingly likely. The moral implications are staggering. These beings, once human or animal, altered and abandoned, left to survive in the shadows. The group's fear evolves into a mix of empathy and horror. Determined to escape and bring this information to light, they formulate a plan. But will the creatures allow them to leave? And even if they do, what will happen if the world learns of these horrors? Realizing the danger they're in, the group knows they must act quickly. They retrace their steps, but the once familiar passages now feel like a maze. The creatures' presence is ever looming, their silhouettes glimpsed in the flicker of their flashlights. They decide to create a distraction. Mark sets up his camera with a flashing light in one direction while they slip away in another. The plan works momentarily, buying them precious time. Navigating through rubble and obstacles, they reach the building's exit only to find it partially blocked. With effort, they squeeze through just as they hear the creatures drawing near. Once outside, they don't stop running. The forest seems alive with movement, every rustling leaf a potential threat. Their Geiger counters spike erratically, but radiation is the least of their worries now. Breathless and exhausted, they finally reach the perimeter of the exclusion zone as dawn begins to break. They're safe, for now. But the sobering reality of what they've discovered weighs heavily upon them. Back home, the experience haunts them. Nightmares, flashbacks, a lingering sense of dread. Lisa questions the ethics of scientific pursuit. Mark debates releasing his footage, fearing disbelief or repercussions. Eerie feels a deep sorrow for his homeland's hidden scars. They gather to discuss their next steps. The world needs to know, but at what cost? They consider the potential panic, the possibility of the creatures being hunted or exploited. In the end, they decide to release a carefully crafted account, omitting certain details to protect both the creatures and unsuspecting thrill-seekers. Their message is clear. Some places are forsaken for a reason, and humanity must learn from its past mistakes. The consequences of playing with nature are unpredictable and often irreversible. So, what do you think? Could there be truths hidden within the shadows of Chernobyl? Or is this just a chilling tale woven from fears and legends? Regardless, the story serves as a stark reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and nature. Chernobyl remains a haunting symbol of technological ambition unchecked by caution. The exclusion zone stands as both a monument to disaster and a testament to nature's resilience, and perhaps its mysteries. Thank you for joining me on this eerie adventure into the unknown. Whether fact or fiction, stories like these spark conversations about ethics, responsibility, and the unforeseen consequences of our actions. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more tales from the edge of reality, be sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe for more content. And as always, stay curious and stay safe out there. Until next time.